My family constantly humiliated me for choosing tech over working in their auto shop, calling my career worthless and me a disappointment. Years later, when their business failed and they desperately needed $50,000, they came crawling to me for help. I don't even know if I'm the asshole here, but I need to get this off my chest because it's been eating at me for months. This is going to be long, so grab some popcorn or whatever because this story is wild. My name's Jake. I'm 27 years old and I've always been the black sheep of my family. Not in a cool, rebellious way, just in a disappointing way according to them. Growing up, I was never good enough for my parents or my siblings, and honestly, I should have seen this coming from a mile away. My dad, Richard, is one of those guys who thinks he's God's gift to the world. He owns a small auto repair shop and acts like he's running General Motors. He's loud, opinionated, and has never been wrong about anything in his entire life. Just ask him. My mom, Carol, is the type of woman who enables him completely. Whatever Dad says goes, and she'll defend him even when he's obviously being an idiot. Then there's my older brother, Danny, who's 31 and basically a mini version of my dad. He works at the shop and thinks he's some kind of mechanical genius because he can change oil and replace brake pads. He's married to this woman named Tiffany who's just as obnoxious as he is, and they have 2 kids that they spoil rotten. My younger sister Michelle is 24 and she's always been the princess of the family. She went to college for art therapy or something equally useless, but my parents act like she's the next Picasso. She's one of those people who thinks she's deep and philosophical, but really just posts inspirational quotes on Instagram all day. Growing up, I was constantly compared to Danny and found lacking. He was the athletic one, the popular one, the one who was going to take over the family business. I was more interested in computers and technology, which my dad thought was a waste of time. He used to say that real men work with their hands, not stare at screens all day. When I graduated high school, I wanted to go to college for computer science, but my parents refused to help pay for it. They said college was a scam and that I should learn a trade like a normal person. Danny didn't go to college either, but that was because he was too cool for school, whereas I was apparently too lazy to work for a living. So I ended up working at a local electronics store while taking community college classes at night. It took me 6 years to get my associate degree, and then another 3 years to transfer to a 4-year university and get my bachelor's degree in information technology. My parents never came to my graduation, said they were too busy with the shop. During this whole time, family gatherings were basically opportunities for everyone to make fun of me. They'd joke about me being a nerd, about how I'd never find a girlfriend because I spent too much time on computers, about how I was wasting my life playing video games. Danny would always make comments about how I needed to get a real job and stop living in fantasy land. The worst part was how they treated my career aspirations. When I told them I wanted to work in cybersecurity, my dad laughed and said that was just a fancy way of saying I wanted to be a security guard. When I got my first IT job making decent money, Michelle said I was just fixing computers for old people and that wasn't a real career. Even when I started making more money than Danny, they found ways to dismiss it. They'd say that office jobs weren't real work, that I was just pushing papers around, that anyone could do what I did. My mom would make comments about how I was getting soft sitting at a desk all day, and my dad would joke about how I'd never be able to fix anything that actually mattered. The breaking point came about 5 years ago at Danny's birthday party. I had just gotten a promotion at work and was feeling pretty good about myself. I was making almost twice what Danny made at the shop. I had a nice apartment, and I was finally starting to feel like I was building something for myself. At the party, my whole extended family was there, aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone. Danny was showing off this new truck he'd bought, talking about how successful the shop was doing, basically holding court like he always did. When someone asked what I was up to, I mentioned my promotion and that I was now the senior network administrator at my company. My dad immediately jumped in and started making jokes about how I probably just reset passwords all day. Danny said something about how real men built things instead of just typing on keyboards. Michelle made some comment about how my job was probably going to be replaced by artificial intelligence soon anyway. But the thing that really got to me was when my Uncle Bob, my dad's brother, asked me how much money I was making. I was hesitant to say because I knew it would cause drama, but Danny kept pushing me to answer. So I finally told them that I was making $75,000 a year. The room went quiet for a second, and then my dad started laughing. He said there was no way I was making that much money, that I was probably lying to make myself look good. Danny said that even if I was making that much, it was just because office jobs paid too much for doing nothing. Michelle said that money wasn't everything and that I was probably miserable because I wasn't doing anything meaningful with my life. Then my mom, who I thought might actually be proud of me for once, said that it was nice that I was finally making decent money, but that I shouldn't get too cocky because I still didn't have a wife or kids like Danny did. She said that success wasn't just about money, it was about building a family and contributing to society. That's when I realized that nothing I ever did would be good enough for them. I could become a millionaire and they'd find a way to make it seem insignificant. I could cure cancer and they'd say it wasn't as important as changing someone's oil, so I started distancing myself from them. I stopped going to family gatherings as much, stopped calling as often, stopped trying to impress them with my achievements. I focused on my career and my own life, and honestly, I was happier without their constant negativity. Over the next few years, my career really took off. I got recruited by a major tech company and my salary jumped to 6 figures. I started doing consulting work on the side and built up a nice savings account. I bought a house, got a nice car, and was finally living the life I'd always wanted. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that Danny's life wasn't going so great. The auto shop was struggling because my dad was getting older and couldn't keep up with the newer technology in cars. Danny wasn't smart enough to adapt, and they were losing customers to the bigger chain shops that had better equipment and training. Michelle had graduated college but couldn't find a job in her field. She was working at a coffee shop and living with my parents, which was apparently causing a lot of tension in the house. She'd broken up with her long-term boyfriend and was generally having a rough time. My parents were also struggling financially. The shop wasn't bringing in enough money to support both my dad and Danny's families, and they were having trouble paying their bills. My dad was too proud to admit that the business was failing, but it was obvious to everyone that they were in trouble. I felt a little bad for them, but I also felt vindicated. For years, they'd told me that I was making the wrong choices, that I should have learned a trade, that office work wasn't real work. Now their precious auto shop was failing while my tech career was thriving. About 2 years ago, things got really bad for them. Danny's wife Tiffany left him and took the kids. Apparently, she was tired of being married to a loser who couldn't provide for his family. The divorce was messy and expensive, and Danny had to move back in with my parents. Around the same time, Michelle had some kind of mental breakdown and ended up in therapy. She was diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and my parents were paying for her treatment because she didn't have insurance from her coffee shop job. My dad's health started declining too. He'd been working on cars for 40 years and his back was shot. He needed surgery, but they couldn't afford it because the shop's insurance was terrible and they didn't have any savings. That's when they started reaching out to me more. At first, it was subtle. My mom would call and mention how hard things were, how worried she was about everyone. My dad started being nicer to me when I did visit, asking about my job with what seemed like genuine interest instead of mockery. Then Michelle called me crying one day, saying that she didn't know what the family was going to do. She said that they were behind on the mortgage, that the shop was barely breaking even, and that everyone was stressed and miserable. She asked if I could maybe help out with some money just temporarily until things got better. I told her I'd think about it, but honestly I was conflicted. Part of me wanted to help because they were still my family, despite everything. But another part of me remembered all the years of humiliation, all the times they'd made me feel worthless, all the times they dismissed my dreams and achievements. A few weeks later, my dad called me directly. This was unprecedented because he never called me unless someone was dead or dying. He said that he wanted to have a family meeting to discuss some important issues, and that it was crucial that I be there. I agreed to go, partly out of curiosity and partly because I suspected what this was really about. The meeting was at my parents' house, and everyone was there. Danny, Michelle, my mom, my dad, even Tiffany showed up with the kids, which was weird considering she'd divorced Danny. My dad started the meeting by talking about how the family was going through a rough patch and how important it was for everyone to stick together. He said that the shop was struggling because of the economy and competition from chain stores, but that it was just a temporary setback. Then he got to the real point of the meeting. He said that they needed to raise some capital to modernize the shop, to buy new equipment and training so they could work on newer cars. He said that this was an investment in the family's future and that everyone needed to contribute what they could. Michelle started crying and talking about how scared she was that they were going to lose the house. Danny was nodding along and talking about how much potential the shop had if they could just get the right equipment. My mom was looking at me with these puppy dog eyes, clearly hoping I'd volunteer to save the day. Then my dad looked directly at me and said that he knew I was doing well financially and that this was my opportunity to really help the family. He said that I could consider it a loan if that made me feel better, but that they really needed someone to step up and be a leader. The amount they were asking for was $50,000. They had this whole presentation about how the new equipment would pay for itself within 2 years, how the shop would be more profitable than ever, how everyone would benefit from the investment. I sat there listening to this pitch, and all I could think about was how different this conversation was from every other conversation I'd ever had with my family. Suddenly, my office job was valuable. Suddenly, my financial success was important. Suddenly, I was someone whose opinion mattered. But what really got to me was that even in this moment, when they desperately needed my help, they couldn't bring themselves to actually acknowledge what they'd put me through. There was no apology for years of treating me like garbage. There was no admission that they'd been wrong about my career choices. There was no recognition that maybe they should have supported me instead of constantly tearing me down. Instead, my dad was framing this as an opportunity for me to prove myself to the family. He was acting like I should be grateful for the chance to invest in their failing business. He was still treating me like I needed to earn their respect instead of acknowledging that I'd already earned it through my own success. So I asked them a simple question. I said that before I considered investing in the shop, I wanted to understand something. I asked them if they remembered all the times they'd told me that my career was worthless, that office work wasn't real work, that I was wasting my life staring at computers. The room got really quiet. My dad started to say something about how they'd always supported my choices, but I cut him off. I reminded them of specific instances, specific things they'd said, specific ways they'd humiliated me over the years. I told them about how it felt to work 2 jobs while going to school, knowing that my parents thought I was wasting my time. I told them about how it felt to achieve something I was proud of, only to have them dismiss it as meaningless. I told them about how it felt to be constantly compared to Danny and found lacking, even though I was clearly more successful than he was. My mom started crying and saying that they'd never meant to hurt me, that they were just trying to motivate me to do better. My dad said that parents sometimes had to be tough on their kids to prepare them for the real world. But I wasn't buying it. I told them that there was a difference between tough love and humiliation, between motivation and abuse. I said that they'd spent years making me feel like I wasn't good enough, like my dreams didn't matter, like I was a disappointment to the family. Then I told them my decision. I said that I wouldn't be investing in the shop and that I wouldn't be providing any financial assistance to any of them. I said that they'd made it clear over the years that they didn't value me or respect me, and that I wasn't going to reward that behavior by bailing them out of their problems. The reaction was immediate and intense. My dad started yelling at me, calling me selfish and ungrateful. He said that family was supposed to stick together, that I was abandoning them in their time of need. Danny jumped in and said that I was being petty, that I was holding grudges over stupid stuff that happened years ago. Michelle was sobbing and saying that I was destroying the family, that I was choosing money over blood. Even Tiffany, who wasn't even married to Danny anymore, said that I was being cruel and heartless. My mom tried to be the peacemaker, saying that we could work through our differences, that the important thing was helping each other. But even her attempts at reconciliation felt manipulative, like she was just trying to guilt me into giving them money. I stood up and told them that I was done. I said that I'd spent my entire life trying to earn their love and respect, and that I'd finally realized it was never going to happen. I told them that I was successful despite them, not because of them, and that I didn't owe them anything. I walked out of that house and I haven't spoken to any of them since. That was about 18 months ago, and I've heard through mutual friends that things have gotten even worse for them. The shop ended up closing about 6 months after our meeting. My dad couldn't afford the surgery he needed, so his back got worse and he couldn't work anymore. They lost the house and had to move into a small apartment. Danny is working at a chain auto shop making minimum wage, and Michelle is still living with my parents and working at the coffee shop. Meanwhile, I got another promotion, and I'm now making more money than I ever dreamed of. I bought a bigger house, I'm engaged to an amazing woman who actually supports and encourages me, and I'm genuinely happy with my life. Do I feel guilty sometimes? Yeah, I do. They're still my family, and it's hard to see them struggling. But I also feel like I finally stood up for myself after years of being treated like garbage. I think the thing that bothers me the most is that even now, after everything that's happened, I don't think they understand what they did wrong. I think they still see me as the selfish son who abandoned his family rather than the son who finally got tired of being treated like he didn't matter. I've built a life without them, and it's a good life. I have friends who respect me, colleagues who value my work, and a fiancé who loves me for who I am. I don't need their approval anymore, and I don't need their drama. Some people might say I should have been the bigger person, that I should have helped them despite how they treated me. But I think sometimes you have to draw a line and say enough is enough. I spent 27 years trying to be good enough for them, and I finally realized that the problem wasn't me, it was them. So that's my story. I don't know if I made the right choice, but I know it was the right choice for me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting back at people who hurt you. It's just living well without them and not letting them drag you down anymore. Thanks for reading this whole thing if you made it this far. I just needed to get it off my chest and maybe get some outside perspective on whether I'm completely horrible or if what I did was justified.